possibility. We're in the grip of a once-in-a-century pandemic. Historic joblessness. Calls for racial justice are long overdue.
So for those that don't know, that was members of the Florida delegation. They had a sign to stop funding Israel. There was some bouncer-looking dude behind them trying to yank it from them. And then the producers there dimmed the lights on that section. So if you're having PTSD, Bernie, people from the 2016 convention in Philly, I feel you. So I don't know, Ben, you are, you know your history. There's a lot of talk about 1968. Obviously, the craziness and the brutality that went on there in Chicago at the DNC. But I kind of sense that it's always kind of an alternate reality, these conventions, compared to like what's going on. But the vibes might feel good, but I sense that this is still a major issue that might deprive Kamala Harris of a potential victory.
Oh, absolutely. It could still deprive her of a victory. I mean, nothing has changed. I mean, what's changed is that the fundamentals of the election are looking better for her than they were for Biden, you know, a couple of months ago. That's true, right? But it could still absolutely end up being a very tight election, consistent with the polling right now. And, you know, the sort of basic thing a lot of us have been trying to scream from the rooftops for months that, look, if it's a tight election and, you know, in crucial states like Michigan, I mean, way more people voted uncommitted than the margins that Biden won by in 2020, or in Michigan is the state that I know the best because that's where I'm from, that, you know, that Trump won by in 2016, right? So if, you know, it could absolutely still tank them. I mean, right now, it just seems like they're kind of hoping that people are going to stop thinking about it and talking about it. But I don't, you know, I mean, look, I'm not saying you know, I don't have a crystal ball. I'm not saying they couldn't still win anyway. But yeah, I mean, I think they could definitely lose because of this, and it would, you know, have no one to blame themselves.
And Steve, I told you to be on your best behavior, but I'm gonna let you rant here, because I kind of stopped myself even when I asked that question. Yeah, this is about the election and elections matter, but this is more important than the election. Like, the people in that audience are, you know, having a ball. Michelle Obama gave a barn burner. Obama gave a barn burner. But there seems to be a cognitive dissonance going on. Yeah, that's sad what's going on, but like, there's an active ongoing genocide going on. And really all we're getting from Vice President Harris is, you know, starker crocodile tears.
Yeah, I look at this and I say to myself, I'm 55 years old, and in my time on this earth, I've never experienced a more brutal, direct, videotaped, in-your-face slaughter of people ever in my life. It has fundamentally changed me, and I tend to be on the edge. You know, I'm over here on the left, and I'm not caving in. So that was already a given. But seeing this, it's taken the politics completely out of it for me. I don't want to hear about what election's going on. I want to, when I saw that girl, and I mean, believe me, it's not just an emotional thing. I'm a father, right? And when I saw that girl with her jaw hanging off, and I thought to myself, if that were my son, what would I do? And we talk about terrorism and we talk about terrorists. We're creating them by the dozens, by the thousands. And we're creating people that genuinely want freedom, that don't want to be slaughtered. I don't care about this election. All I care about is ending that murder, ending that genocide. Let's call it what it is. And when I see people playing politics, when I see people trying to tell me to be practical, harkens back to 2016, 2020, all the we must be practical, now is not the time. You know, Green New Deal, all that stuff was a totally different ball of cheese. This right here is a systematic slaughter that we're funding, fully funding. And when I see a Democrat grabbing the sign, it tells me all I need to know about the morals and the direction of that party. It tells me everything I need to know about this election. They're not concerned with it. They're not concerned with it. And quite frankly, every time I think about it, all I can envisage is really, I have no power here. Voting, great, wonderful. How do you stop this thing? You saw campuses across the country filled with students, teachers risking tenure, risking their careers, people literally sitting there fighting back and getting bludgeoned by cops. And you saw it last night in your footage, bludgeoned by cops. If we are not already in a fascist state, I don't know what one is. And by the way, save what democracy? When I see stuff like this, when I see the people screaming out and saying, stop this now. And I say to myself, the vote is only one little teeny piece of what a democracy represents. They know what the people want. They know what we're saying. They know, and they're still denying it. They're erasing it. So to me, the election itself is just not even important. I don't even care about it.
Hey, Ben, I want to read this tweet because I think it's not just about, obviously it's about the genocide, but it's also, not only are they trying to block out the protests inside, but they seem to have quite the different standard for who gets to go on the stage. They had hostages on, they had families of Israeli hostages on yesterday, but as Uncommitted tweeted out, and let me read that tweet, this is from the Uncommitted movement. Uncommitted delegates urge the Democratic Party to reject the hierarchy of human value by ensuring Palestinian voices are heard on the main stage. We are learning that Israeli hostages' families will be speaking from the main stage. We strongly support that decision and also strongly hope that we will also be hearing from Palestinians who have endured the largest civilian deaths toll since 1948. I got to tell you, Ben, they could talk about democracy till they're blue in the face, but we know that the donors are in the boxes up there in the VIP suites, and a lot of those donors do not want Palestinian voices on the main stage. Can you elaborate? Why wouldn't they at the very least try and make it appear that they care by allowing those doctors who wanted to speak, doctors who have witnessed this genocide on stage, or, members of the Uncommitted movement?
Yeah, I don't think that calculation works out well for them, right? Because, I guess they get whatever bonus they get from, pretending to care. And look, what to echo, right? Steve said about feeling a little gross, even like framing all of this in those terms, right? But those are the terms of the question, so roll with it, right? But look, I think that the reality of it, right, is so overwhelming that you really can't let that on the stage at all, right? Without reminding people of something that they absolutely don't want people to remind them of. Even aside from the donors, I think that it's just the last thing you want to do if you're trying to excite people about going out to vote for Kamala Harris is to remind them that there's these horrors going on that have been going on for the last 10 months in the Biden-Harris administration, that she's made pretty clear she has no plans on stopping, right? That, like she said, the party line is that, she's very sad and she wants a ceasefire, but her national security advisor also said that, she's not open at all to cutting off the supply of weapons.
Right. Absolutely. I want to shift to some of the news. Obviously, it is the DNC, but there's massive election news. This was kind of hinted at, Ben, but RFK, there's reports now that he's expected to drop out. Shocker, plans to endorse Trump. Different pundits have different opinions, but most people think if he drops out, that does help Trump. A lot of his voters, if not for him, maybe Trump's their second choice. So that's reported that he might drop out by the end of the week. His vice presidential pick said on a podcast that was the plan if they drop out, to support Trump. And then I reported today exclusively that Democrats have been pushing Cornel West this week in Chicago to drop out. And are dangling positions for him in the Harris administration and financial incentives. I don't have details on those financial incentives, but I can only imagine. To be clear, Cornel West told him to kick rocks. He's staying in. But, it's pretty major news because if RFK is out, then, I'm not a political pundit, but I do think that might potentially help Trump.
Yeah, for sure. With both of them in, look, a lot more people are going to vote, for RFK if he's in than are going to vote for Cornel West, which is, not the way I wish it was, right? But I mean, it does seem pretty obviously true. So I could see that if they're both in, Democrats would think that they were getting the better end of that bargain, because RFK is mostly pulling from Trump. But yeah, no, all of that makes sense. I mean, it's really bizarre to me that like to think back to the fact that RFK started all this off running as a Democrat, and and he even got some support from some left or left adjacent commentators who thought who have like a really low bar for what counts as a form of populism.
Are we talking about anyone specifically? Rhymes with adore. Yeah,
I could possibly say it. Yes, Shimmy Shore and people of that nature. They have but it's like, yeah, look, I mean, it's amazing to me because it's like now, according to his running mate, the whole discussion is, oh, should they stay in or should they drop out and endorse Trump? Because of course, if they were going to drop out, they'd obviously endorse Trump. Because that's the side they're on. I mean, like I actually connected to what we were just talking about. I think I've had the very depressing thought many times the last few months that out of the three biggest candidates, it's amazing that the third party one is somehow maybe the greater evil in Palestine. Like the RFK stuff, like might actually be the worst I've seen any of the three of them say, which is really saying something. Yeah,
absolutely. And Steve, my last question, and I hate to tell you not to monologue, but I have about 3 minutes. All this hubbubaloo about democracy, and I'm not going to minimize it. We've talked about it. I think Trump is a threat. But all this talk about democracy and, Obama and Michelle Obama, hope is on the comeback, Michelle Obama said. How's this for democracy? The Democrats have successfully kicked Cornel West off the ballot in Michigan. The FEC isn't giving Jill Stein funds that she earned. We know what he's not my cup of tea, but they've screwed RFK Jr. on ballot measures. Right now, they're trying to force Cornel West out of the race, which I just reported. I don't know. You could just be a team blue or wear your team blue hat or team red hat, but I would think that democracy includes like not canceling the primary, which they did for Biden, or if the president drops out, to have a real competition rather than just anoint Harris and actually have more competitors. Doesn't seem like we have a thriving democracy on display in Chicago.
We don't have a democracy at all. I mean, I talked about the Princeton study. I think that's well known. We literally live in an oligarchy. And the very veneer of a democracy, I believe, is purely to manufacture consent, which is why they don't have any Palestinians on stage. And I will say this, one of the things that I think is most important, if you're even remotely into sports at all, you understand sometimes your team is better on defense than it is on offense. And I'm telling you right now, Democrats will fall asleep at brunch over a genocide when Biden or Harris is in office. But out of office, if Donald Trump didn't have the proper technique in his comb over, they would be out there in droves protesting it. So the opportunity to end a genocide, you have to ask yourself, I'm not saying this is the way to go because I'm not voting for Trump, but I am telling you this, Democrats in power are like a pillow on the face of a Palestinian child. They are not going to do anything other than keep doing what they're doing, high-roading people, etc. I've stood on my head screaming about what a jackass RFK is. I believe that Trump is an absolute jackass. But Kamala Harris and that entire bunch of centrist shitlibs, let's just call them for what they are, absolutely 100% will put 75% of the vote blue sycophants back to sleep over the next 4 years. Palestinians don't have a chance with a Democrat in office. That's the problem.